Well, today is April 19th, 2022, of our regular council meeting, calling to order. Notice to the public that the city council may vote to go into executive session on any of the agendized items for legal advice. Roll call, please.
Mayor Deasy,
Here.
Vice Mayor Sweet,
Here.
Councilmember Aslan, Councilmember McCarthy,
Here.
Councilmember Salas,
Present.
Councilmember Shimoni.
Present.
All right. Councilmember McCarthy, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Be my pleasure. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor, our mission statement, please.
The mission is to protect and enhance the quality of life for all.
Thank you. And Councilmember Salas, would you please read our land acknowledgement?
I'm honored to do so, Mr. Mayor. The Flagstaff City Council humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. That brings us to agenda item number 4, which is approval of minutes from previous meetings. This is the consideration and approval of minutes from the City Council regular meeting of May 19th, 2020 through the special meeting executive session of March 29th, 2022. I move to approve the minutes as stated. If I have a second.
I will second.
Seconded by Councilman McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. That brings us to agenda item number 5, which is public participation, and we do have 3 cards here. I'll start with Kyle Nitschke, please.
Hi, good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council. My name is Kyle Nitschke, and I'm here today as the Organizing Director for the Arizona Students Association. The Arizona Students Association is responsible for registering thousands of students to vote every year, and we just recently came back from a weekend at the Arizona State Legislature advocating on behalf of student interests down there. We know it's budget week here for Flagstaff City Council, and we really wanted to prioritize that you guys are pushing climate projects first. We know that when we talk about budget, where we put our money is where our priorities are as a city. And so we would really like you all to make sure that we're prioritizing climate projects and climate infrastructure, as well as bike and pedestrian safe projects, particularly at the Beulah Roundabout and the 4th Street intersection. We really are trying to push NAU students to not have their cars on campus. There's dozens of universities around the country that don't allow college students to bring their cars to campus, and we think that NAU can be a campus like that in the future. But we need really awesome public transportation to get our students to and from work across the city, and we need really safe bike and pedestrian pathways, particularly where we have a lot of student housing and we have big intersections in between our student housing and the university. So thank you all for your time. I know you guys will keep that in mind over these budget talks this next week, and have a wonderful rest of your meeting.
Thank you, Kyle. Much appreciated. With that, we're to Michelle James. Would like to come up?
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. My name is Michelle James. I'm the Executive Director of Friends of Flagstaff's Future. FQ believes that the city needs to be accountable for the plans it puts in place. These plans include the Carbon Neutrality Plan, which responds to the city's declaration of a climate emergency by providing strategy to reach carbon neutrality by 2030, and the nearly final Active Transportation Management Plan, which calls for a holistic connected network of bikeways. These plans work together to implement the values of the Flagstaff community and help achieve the Carbon Neutrality Plan. One means of determining the city's plan for upcoming years is to review and provide input into the city's proposed budget prior to finalization. I'm aware the council and staff may be discussing or will be discussing the proposed final five-year budget in a two-day retreat later this week. It's my understanding that the budget will be finalized at the end of the retreat. My concerns are threefold. One, the information that will be presented and decided upon at the budget retreat in less than 2 days has not yet been made available to the public. F-Cube requests that additional time be given for the public to review and weigh in on the proposed final budget prior to formal adoption. Two, the information presented at the March 31st Capital Program 5-year Plan Review meeting indicates the funding is not being allocated over the next 5 years for bike and pedestrian design work. The number one priority action as outlined in the ATMP, page 43, reads, construct priority pedestrian and bicycle projects over the next 5 years. The ATMP indicates the Flagstaff's infrastructure, including a multitude of street corridors that are difficult for bikes and peds to cross due to speed, volume, width of the street, and more than 30% of major street intersections do not fully accommodate pedestrian crossings. Priority bike and ped projects cannot be constructed without first receiving funding for their planning, nor can implementation funding via grants be pursued without this information. F-Cube would like to see the design of priority projects as identified by the city's multimodal planner included in the fully funded in the 5-year project. I encourage the council to prioritize funding for bike and ped projects in the core of Flagstaff over projects that are likely to expand vehicle traffic into areas on the outskirts of the city, such as John Wesley Powell, currently scheduled for work in FY 23-24 and 26-27. Thirdly, at the March 31st Capital Program meeting, it became known to F-Cube that the Beulah University Roadway Project appears to be $9 million over budget. F-Cube believes it's fiscally responsible for council to scrutinize all projects, especially those that are newly estimated to be nearly double the budget previously approved. As a member of the Citizens Bond Committee, I am acutely aware of the needs of the city, and I cannot help but think of the many other necessary projects that could be funded with $9 million. I'm not suggesting that an intersection is not needed at Beulah and University, but a design that is in line with the $10 million currently budgeted should be examined and reevaluated. Excuse me.
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Thompson?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Stephen Thompson. I'm the Volunteer and Event Coordinator in the Sustainability Office. I want to thank you all for allowing me to speak just for a few moments today about the Earth Day celebration event that's happening this Saturday at Bushmaster Park. Earth Day 2022 is all about reconnecting to celebrate and build a resilient community. We have more than 50 organizations from the community who will be present to celebrate and are gathering together to share their knowledge and information about how we all can get involved in fun, exciting, and meaningful ways. Please join us on Saturday, this coming Saturday, at Bushmaster Park from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. for fun, games, live music, and community action that is good and a lot of fun for all ages. And if you want to get your day started with a little volunteering, we are co-hosting a volunteer community cleanup in the neighborhood surrounding Bushmaster Park starting at 9 a.m. And if you have a moment, I would appreciate any help that you can offer to spread the word about this event. In a little while, I'll be sending out an email that is good to share on all social media platforms. And I hope to see a lot of your faces there or in the community going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I will be there.
Fantastic.
Excellent. Thank you. Eric Wolverton, please.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and city staff. My name is Eric Wolverton, and I'm with Habitat for Humanity of Northern Arizona. Financial wealth can be categorized into three principal areas: personal property from homes, monetary savings from personal savings, and capital wealth from investments. Consider this. You were born into a home that had none of these factors in place. Living costs prohibit the creation of personal savings. making a down payment on a home impossible, and without that equity, investing in capital wealth is simply a dream that is not a reality. So how does a person not born in a privilege start the process of creating personal wealth if there's no starting point to work from? I've lived in Flagstaff for 23 years. In the first 10 years, I rented apartments, houses, rooms, and even a couch or two when times were hard. Only because I was not personally impacted by the Great Recession of 2008 was I able to buy a home. Not in Flagstaff, but in Mountain Air, where it was affordable enough for my family. We still live there, in our humble knowing, only because of our ownership in our home, that we are truly financially wealthy. But for 10 years, my rent payments went to creating other families' wealth at my expense. Over $100,000 in my personal hard-earned wealth went out the window. So how do we change the algorithm? I challenge you to consider this new simple solution. Allow low-income families to save their own personal wealth simply through the creation of equity by creating an attainable path to home ownership. $1,000 down payment, no first and last and pet deposits, just $1,000, and you own a home in Flagstaff. Habitat's 0% interest financing creates a savings of $10,000 each year while paying less than $1,000 in total mortgage monthly payments. That's a savings of $50,000 in just 5 years to invest in any forever solution despite Flagstaff's housing crisis. Habitat's new starter homes are the pathway to ending poverty with a view. We are proud to begin work on our first starter home on City Land Trust lands this spring. Together, we will build prosperity with a view. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. With that, we are down to agenda item number 6, and this is the 6A recognition, 2021 George F. Ames National Performance Innovation in the State Revolving Fund, Creating Environmental Success Program, Award for Excellence in Environmental and Public Health Protection from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project.
I didn't make that easy on you, did I?
Yeah. Staff recommended action is to accept the 2021 George F. Ames National Pisces Award from EPA for the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project.
Yes, hi, Mayor and Council. Thank you, Stacy Breckler-Nags, Grants and Contracts Manager. And I'm going to read that one more time, and just so everybody can hear. This is a national award, which is very exciting for the city. It is the 2021 George F. Ames National Performance and Innovation in State Revolving Fund and Creating Environmental Success Program, Pisces. I don't know how they got that acronym out of all that, but they did. And it's for excellence in environmental and public health protection from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency for the Flagstaff Watershed Project. On November 5th, 2019, Council approved a Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, also known as WIFA, loan for the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Program. And then WIFA, with this, once they saw that loan, they got very excited about the project, and Rick Tatter will be talking a little bit more about that, and I'll do some introductions with WIFA here. But they got so excited about the project that they actually submitted this project and nominated us for this award, for this Pisces Award. And the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project of Arizona was selected to receive an excellent in environmental and public health protection recognition for the 2021 George F. Ames Pisces program. So it's pretty exciting that we were one of many. There was only, I think, 27 in the state that were recognized, and we were one of them for this Excellence Award. So it's very exciting. I have the award up here, but before we get to that point, I wanted to introduce with Water Infrastructure Finance Authority, Morgan Burgess is on the line. And Morgan, if you're with us, if you want to open your camera up and say hello and say a few words, that'd be great. And then I'll turn it over to Rick Tatter with Management Services. And Neil Chapman was intending to be here. He might be out in the fire doing some important work for us. So we'll cover it for him. All right, Morgan, thanks.
Hi, Stacy. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can.
Wonderful. So I just have a little a little speech just to thank you guys and just explain a little bit more about what the award is. So the SRFs are EPA state partnerships that provide communities with a permanent independent source of low-cost financing for a wide range of water quality and drinking water infrastructure projects. The Clean Water State Revolving Funds George F. Ames Performance and Innovation in the SRF Creating Environmental Success Program, also known as the Pisces Program, recognizes clean water SRF assistance recipients for exceptional projects and highlights them nationally. Participating state programs each nominate one project that exemplifies one or more of the following evaluation criteria: environmental and public health protection, community engagement, system partnerships, innovative financing, and problem solving. Out of the 27 state entries to be nominated for a 2021 Pisces, only 5 were selected by the EPA as an exceptional project, 1 from each category. The Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project from Arizona was selected to receive the Excellence in Environmental and Public Health Protection recognition. To receive the Environmental and Public Health Protection Pisces Award, projects have to employ a holistic approach in addressing water quality. These projects may include pollution prevention, contaminant loading reduction, innovative use of technology, or other aspects that focus on integrated design and should create multiple benefits in protecting ecosystems, public health, and communities. The FWPP features numerous benefits, including reducing drinking water treatment costs, protecting watershed health, human health, wildlife habitat, biodiversity, and old growth trees, preserving property and recreational values, increasing local economic prosperity, and creating restoration-based employment opportunities. The Water Infrastructure Finance Authority provided a loan for $6 million with $1 million in forgivable principal to the City of Flagstaff to fund a portion of the project. WIFA and the EPA commend Flagstaff on their innovative project and forward-thinking planning to protect their water resources. This was a great opportunity for WIFA to support the Flagstaff community, and we are hopeful this project can set a model for similar work across the state. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Morgan, for sharing all that and appreciate it. And I'll turn it over to Rick Tatter, Management Services Director.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. I guess it'd be first appropriate to thank our citizens for putting this on a ballot measure years ago for $10 million to help with our forest health and water protection. So kudos go out to them for approving the bonds and allowing us to move forward with this project. So in 2019, we started the partnership, which included the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority,
It is vital that monies collected funnel back
our bond counsel, Greenberg Traurig. We finalized the
friendly environment.
of that bond funds, and WIFA was gracious in deferring $1 million in principal during that finance, as well as a very low interest rate on our debt. The interest rate and the forgivable principal created a loan that had an all-in cost of financing of less than 0.5% for our projects. This kind of partnership saves the taxpayers' dollars about $1.4 million in the long run from our property taxes. So we really greatly appreciate the partnership we had, and we'd like to thank WIFA again for their nomination, as well as EPA's recognition of the City of Flagstaff's work that we do to this valuable need for our community. Thank you.
All right, and with that, we actually ended up having a virtual meeting with EPA. The director of EPA met with Rick Tatter and Neil and myself and WIFA online to do kind of before the press release went out. And finally, the awards showed up, and I wish Neil was here, but I know you all know about the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project, and he'll be back to talk more about it. So with that, present the award.
Excellent. Thank you so much. A well-earned award and recognition from all the hard work of our city staff and so many others. And I appreciate Mr. Tatter bringing up the citizens who approved the bond that made this happen. The city of Flagstaff was the first city in the entire nation to fund watershed protection and wildfire protection on Forest Service land to help protect our community, and that should be extremely commended. So I'm glad that national entities are recognizing that, as well as citizens who definitely see how much importance this has, so.
Thanks, and I was looking behind me to see if Sarah Langley wanted to do a picture with the huge
Yeah,
plaque.
let's do a fancy little picture up here.
Greg, do you want to?
Too bad Neil's not with us, but.
There.
All right, City Manager?
Thank you. I thought I would take the opportunity, if we had Rick Tatter here having a photograph, I might add to the accolades here. Today, Rick celebrates his 27th year anniversary with the city.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And Rick, I really like your tie, by the way, so you're going to have to give me some tips on your tailor, just so you know, in the future. Excellent. Thank you much. That brings us down to agenda item number 7, our COVID-19 update. And I apologize for not mentioning this earlier, but we are going to be kicking agenda item 13E to a future discussion on council, just so everyone is aware. That's a last item before general public participation. Regardless, we can start up with Deputy City Manager Sanderson.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So today we'll have our last regular COVID-19 update, but we will come back if there are any substantial changes. So don't worry, we're going to keep tracking for you. All right, so today we're going to go over our data sets from Coconino County Health and Human Services, Northern Arizona Healthcare. I apologize, I forgot to take off the Navajo Nation and Hopi Tribe. You did receive that information from Rose today as she returned from vacation. So you do have that available to you. And then lastly, the public transit mask update. So for our weekly cases, we did have 31 new cases here in Flagstaff. Compares to the previous week that was originally 42, now 41 as you see it on the screen. For our Flagstaff area, we are still looking at 28.1% positivity. That has not changed between the April 2nd and the April 9th weekly reports. When we're looking at the hospitalizations, we did have 1 hospitalization reported for this last weekly report, April 9th, and 2 the week prior, so continuing to see that number trend downward. Good news here, our COVID-related deaths have been 0 for the last few weeks. Just as a reminder, sometimes there is a delay, so we'll continue to keep an eye on that. Looking at our community measures, we were at 21.7 cases per 100,000, which is down from the previous week at 29.4. We did see a slight increase in our percent positivity, went from 2.2 the prior week to 2.9 this week of September, wow, April 9th. And then lastly, our COVID-like illness also decreased from 2.1% to 1.9%. Looking at our community levels, we're still at low, so that's fantastic. We've got fewer than the 200 cases. Our new COVID admissions is at 0.7% instead of the 1.4% from the week prior. And our inpatient beds that are occupied by our COVID-19 patients has also decreased from 4.6% to the 2.3% that you see on the bottom of this screen. Looking at our community vaccinations, that's remained stable for the last 2 weeks at 58.7% of our community is fully vaccinated, and that's Coconino County-wide. Moving on to our variants, the Delta variant remained at 15 between these last two weekly reports. The Omicron increased by 4. Again, as we had shared, the BA2 is actually what we're seeing most in Arizona. And if you are interested in seeing the breakdown of what's happening not only in our state but also by county, you'll see the link at the very bottom of this page that goes to the TGen website. Our Northern Arizona hospital census for our Flagstaff Medical Center. We've had one less positive patient. We have 0 pending patients again this week. Our hospital bed has increased by 12 to 68, and then our critical care beds has decreased by 3 to the 6, and that was as of April 17th. And then lastly, our public transit mask update. Originally, we were prepared to report to you that it had been extended for 15 more days to May 3rd. But as of today, we've learned that there's a court ruling in which the airlines and TSA will no longer be enforcing mask mandates. This means for our own airport here, Flagstaff Pulliam, that we will not require those masks inside the airport terminal or on the airplane, but will be lifted immediately. And then the patrons and visitors can decide what's their level of comfort with wearing a mask or not. So that is the information. What you see in the black text was the original, and then what's been updated in the blue is what's been updated as of today. Okay. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Council, do we have any questions at this time? All right, well, thank you again. We will press on. Next is agenda item number 8, our council liaison reports. And let's do it maybe in roll call order. So, Vice Mayor?
I don't have anything this week, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Aslan?
I'm not prepared at this point to discuss anything. Not much to report.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy?
Nothing tonight.
Councilmember Salas?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yesterday, the Parks and Recreation Commission held its monthly meeting, and congratulations to our pros team for obtaining a grant for $100,000 through the Arizona State Parks Heritage Fund for the non-motorized trail improvement for Buffalo Park. So this, the grants will help our pros team to bring trails in alignment with American with Disabilities Act. And again, congratulations to the team for obtaining that grant. And again, thank you to the state legislature who approved the funding of $5 million to relaunch the Arizona State Park Heritage Grant, which were swept in 2008 and 2009. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. Councilmember Shimoni?
Thank you, Mayor. The CJCC Executive Committee met last week, and the big highlight I'd like to share with this group and the public is that we were unsuccessful in filling our chair position for that group, the CJCC, and we had a great dialogue about how we're going to go back out and do a national search for this position, and also talked about the different panels of which evaluate the candidates, those who step forward wanting to serve us. So that's the biggest update there. The next meeting is about a month away. And again, that'll be the broader group, not the executive committee, and again, open to the public. And then the only other thing I have is that Vice Mayor Sweet and I did have a good meeting with Mountain Lion leadership this past week and further discussed how the city can embrace public transit through our policies and our processes. And specifically talking about development agreements and there's a few other things, but we will keep you up to speed as to what comes out of those discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. And I have nothing for liaison reports today. With that, we're down to agenda item 9A. This is the consideration of appointments for the Industrial Development Authority. which is up to Councilmember Salas as well as myself. We have two applicants, and I would like to nominate Lance McGill to the Industrial Development Authority for a term expiring April 2028.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to appoint Tara Busher for a term that expires April 2028.
I second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Down to agenda item 9B. This is the consideration of appointments for the Commission on Inclusion and Adaptive Living. And starting us off here would be Vice Mayor Sweet.
Thank you. I move to appoint Stephanie Birdwell to the commission with a term expiring March of 2025.
I second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Next is me. I would like to appoint Rachel Sumukanda to the Commission on Inclusion and Adaptive Living for an appointment expiring March 2025.
I will second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Next is Councilmember Salas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to appoint Sarah Durman for a term expiring March 2025.
I second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. I nominate Jerry Musgrove for a term expiring March 2023.
I second that motion. Any further discussion?
I believe it's Jeremy Musgrove. Just
Jeremy Musgrove?
I must have mispronounced that. I'm sorry.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Councilmember Aslan.
Yeah, I think looking at this roster here, I'm very pleased with all the choices so far. We've got a lot to do today with this particular commission, and just very grateful for all the applicants who have applied and made it possible for us to fill out this roster today. Everybody, a lot of great applicants. I'd like to round things out with a nomination for Keith Becker. I appreciate the lived experience that he and his wife are going to bring to this role. And that's for a term expiring March 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any
Thank you.
opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. We are down to the agenda item 9C now. This is the consideration appointments for the Citizen Commission on Council salaries. Who's first up here? Just pulling it up. Councilmember Shimoni is first up.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank everybody who's applied for this committee, or commission, I apologize. And I'd like to nominate Mackenzie Jones for one of the at-large seats.
Second.
Seconded by McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Vice Mayor Sweet.
I would like to nominate Kyle Nitschke to an at-large position. Thank you.
Thank you. I second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to nominate Allison Eckert for a HR position.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. And by the process of deduction here, I would like to nominate Jim Wine as an HR professional for the Citizen Commission on Council Salaries.
Second.
Seconded by McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. I'm seeing too many smiles and laughter in the crowd right now, and it's disturbing me. We're supposed to be very serious around here.
How can you be serious when Rick Tatter wears a shirt that color?
Alrighty, we are down to agenda item 10, which is our liquor license public hearings. And I'd like to take all three of these together. And this is the consideration and action on liquor license applications as listed. Jeffrey Craig Miller Butler Easy Mart, 1311 East Butler Avenue, Series 10, new license. Then also Laramie Jean Sandlin, Dark Sky Brewing Company, 103 West Birch Avenue, Series 12, new application. And then the Sergio Heron of One Stop, 2325 South Woodlands Village Boulevard, Series 9, new application. And I am opening up the public hearing now. If we could hear from our fire, if we, or sorry, not fire, police, to see if there's, any marks on the record or so forth before we proceed.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I found no derogatory records for any of the applicants or the license themselves. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Is there any applicant that was wanting to speak today?
Mayor, we do have them on the line, but they were there to offer any answers to questions, but they didn't request to speak.
Excellent. Well, then I would like to close the public hearing and move to forward the application to the state with a recommendation for approval for all three liquor licenses.
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. We are down, Councilmember McCarthy.
When you get to consent items, I have a comment.
Excellent. Well, yes, we are down to agenda item 11, our consent items, which we do have quite a few today. Councilmember McCarthy, is there a specific one you'd like to pull out?
Actually, I don't want to poll. I just want to make a brief comment on number D, that I did have quite a few questions on that, but I submitted those to staff by email, and I got good answers. So I am supportive of item D. And if no one wants to pull anything, I would move that we approve all of the consent items. That'd be 11A through I.
Thank you. I second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries. Man, we're down already to routine items. We're moving right along. Just so you know, this is page 549 of our agenda packet. We're already through. So, go team. This is our routine items, agenda item 12A. This is the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-07. Okay, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Flagstaff, Arizona, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement with the Water Infrastructure Financing Authority of Arizona from its Clean Water Revolving Fund Program, delegating the determination of certain matters relating thereto to the mayor, the city manager, and the management services director of the city, providing the transfer of certain monies and making certain covenants and agreements with respect thereto, authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by such loan agreement in this ordinance and declaring an emergency. Staff recommended action is to read ordinance number 2022-07 by title only for the final time. Mr. Tatter.
And breathe. Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Rick Tatter, Management Services Director. Item 12A and 12B are both financing ordinances that were in front of the council 2 weeks ago on April 5th. Tonight, we are seeking the second read. In addition to the second read tonight, we are looking to amend the ordinance as presented in your packet to include an emergency clause, which will require 75% of council to approve or 5 members to vote yes. The emergency clause is allowed per city charter as preservation of public peace, health, and safety. By passing the ordinances with the emergency clause, it allows staff to be more aggressive with our financing of the loans and potentially save hundreds of dollars in our stormwater fund for financing costs, thus leaving more capacity for stormwater projects to help with safety and health issues in our community. So that's why we were asking for the emergency clause, so we can advance this and save funds for those important needs. With that, I look forward to the second read of and adoptions of ordinances 2022-07 and 2022-08. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tatter. Any questions, council? That I move to read ordinance number 2022-07 by title only for the final time.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Councilmember Shimoni. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, Coconino County, Arizona, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a loan agreement with the Water Infrastructure Finance Authority of Arizona from its Clean Water Revolving Fund program, delegating the determination of certain matters relating thereto to the mayor, the city manager, and the management services director of the city, providing for the transfer of certain monies, and making certain covenants and agreements with respect thereto, authorizing the taking of all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transactions contemplated by such loan agreement and this ordinance, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-07.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 12B is the longest title of anything, so I'll get through it here. Which Mr. Tatter was speaking to. That's in tandem with the prior decision. The consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-08. An ordinance of the Council of the City of Flagstaff, Coconino County, Arizona. 1, providing for the sale and execution and delivery pursuant to a Series 2019 Utility System Revenue Trust Agreement of Utility System Revenue Obligations in one or more series evidencing proportionate interest of the owners thereof in installment payments of the purchase price to be paid by the City of Flagstaff, Arizona pursuant to a Series 2019 Utility System Revenue Purchase Agreement to finance costs of certain improvements to the water and sewer utility system of the city. 2, authorizing the completion, execution, and delivery with respect thereto of agreements necessary or appropriate as part of financing the cost of such improvements and paying related financing costs. 3, delegating to the mayor, the city manager, and the management services director certain authority with respect to the purpose hereof. 4, authorizing the management services director to expend all necessary funds therefore. And 5, authorizing the management services director or his designees to take all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated by the ordinance and declaring an emergency. Staff recommended action is to read ordinance number 2022-08 by title only for the final time. I move to read ordinance number 2022-08 by title only for the final time. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Sweet. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, Coconino County, Arizona. 1, providing for the sale and execution and delivery pursuant to one or more utility system revenue trust agreements of utility system revenue and revenue refunding obligations in one or more series evidencing proportionate interests of the owners thereof in installment payments of the purchase price to be paid by the City of Flagstaff, Arizona, pursuant to one or more utility system revenue purchase agreements to finance and/or refinance costs of certain improvements to the water, wastewater, and stormwater utility system of the city. 2, authorizing the completion, execution, and delivery with respect thereto of agreements necessary or appropriate as part of financing and/or refinancing the costs of such improvements and paying related financing costs. 3, delegating to the mayor, the city manager, and the management services director certain authority with respect to the purposes hereof. 4, authorizing the management services director to expend all necessary funds therefore. And 5, authorizing the management services director or his designees to take all other actions necessary to the consummation of the transaction contemplated by this ordinance and declaring an emergency.
Thank you, City Clerk. I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-08.
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Sweet. All those in favor? Or any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. We are down to agenda item 12C, the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-01. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff extending and increasing the corporate limits of the City of Flagstaff pursuant to the provisions of Title IX, Chapter 4, Arizona Revised Statutes, by annexing approximately 10.05 acres of land located at 7,000 North Highway 89, which certain land is contiguous to the existing corporate limits of the City of Flagstaff, and establishing a city zoning for said land as highway commercial with a resource protection overlay, providing for severability authority for clerical corrections, and establishing an effective date. This is Flagstaff Rehab Campus Annexation, project number PZ-20-00164-03. Staff recommended action is to, staff recommended the City Council approve a request for a continuance until May 17th, 2022, or to read ordinance number 2022-01 by title only for the final time.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you,
take it
Mayor.
away.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Genevieve Pear3, Senior Planner in the current planning section. Just a little bit of background on this. We heard this for 3 times in February and January at the last City Council meeting. I believe that was February 1st. Council did give staff direction to work with the developer to craft a development agreement. That has not been received. So we can, again, as you said, either ask for continuance or the other option is to read the ordinance second read. So I don't have a presentation prepared for tonight, but I do have my slides from the last time I gave one. So if you have any questions, we can go over that. Otherwise, that's all that I have for you today.
You, Ms. Pear3. City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Mayor and Council, as Ms. Pear3 indicated, no development agreement has been received from the rehab center in this case. That was the council's direction it wasn't direction, it was actually a vote the council took back on February 1st to pause for 11 weeks while we waited for a development agreement to be negotiated. Not having received one, that's why you have the option to either continue toward a development agreement, because that's the current path the council's on, or if council wanted to do something different, they could make a motion first not to pursue a development agreement and vote on that, and then consider the ordinance for annexation.
Thank you, City Attorney. And Ms. Pear3, I would like to move that City Council approve a request for a continuance until May 17th, and when we see a development agreement, but happy to hear other council members' thoughts.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. So, Mayor and Council, I did have a chance to meet with the owner and the founder and some of their staff, and I know others have been in communication with them as well. And my understanding is that they're not pursuing a development agreement, and I personally feel comfortable with that. I'm not sure if there's a majority that agree with me on this, but my understanding is a development agreement would be pretty detrimental to their ability to pursue this in Flagstaff. And I personally feel comfortable as a council member allowing them to annex and rezone and build a rehab center in Flagstaff with a detox component. And I feel comfortable with us moving forward with that tonight and reading that ordinance tonight. And so I personally will be voting no on the extension, just because I feel like it's not necessarily going to make a difference, but I support council if there is a desire to have that extension in place and then circle back to this in a month. I know that I believe the developer wanted to speak to us and present, but they were under the impression it was coming back, I think, in a month from now. So whatever makes sense for you, council, but I personally feel comfortable with us doing the latter option that we're given tonight. So I guess we'll let this motion play out, but I will be voting no. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember Salas, followed by McCarthy.
Yeah, I have a question to staff for clarity. With regards to the recommendation for a request for a continuance until May 17, is it for the purpose of developing a development agreement? Or is it just to give the developer time to to make a presentation on the said date, after the said date?
Yeah, so the initial request was for from the developer for how much time they felt they needed to pull together a development agreement. I think at this point, we haven't received anything, so that would be the minimum. If a development agreement were to be required, that would be the minimum time that staff would need to work with them to get one done in time. Yeah, so that was the original purpose of it as well.
I have a follow-up question on that, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Perry, thank you so much for your stellar work on this project. So, have you heard directly from the developer that they do not intend to pursue a development agreement?
I have not heard that definitively, but I believe they're here today, and I think it would be probably best if you want to hear from them, they may be able to answer that question.
That will be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy, do you want to speak up before we see
Well,
if...
could we hear a
others can
comment
respond?
from the developer? And then I do have some follow-up comments.
Absolutely. If they are on the line, be happy to extend the invitation to speak. Ms. Salzberg, do we have individuals on who can speak to this, or?
I guess if I could have the name of the developer, I could tell if they're in this list or not.
I see them up there.
So,
This is Michelle Carrasco. Give me a moment. I see Mike's on here. I'm not sure if he's having a problem. One moment, please.
No problem.
Mayor,
Just
while
give-
we're waiting,
Yeah.
can I jump in?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'll just add, their rehab campus serves individuals through Medicaid, and they also allow folks to be brought to their facilities through police, fire, et cetera. So they have a detox component and then a voluntary rehab component. And they're the only ones in the state that I believe do this to this level and receive clients from across the state. My understanding is that I believe close to 100% of the residents are Arizona-based. They're not coming in from across the nation. And they're looking to expand their operations to Phoenix and also to Flagstaff. And I'm just beyond excited. They seem very open to working with us in addressing the needs of our indigenous populations. And really, in visiting their campus myself in Tucson, it was clear that they really work hard to better the individual's experience and really care for the individual. And I see Mike, the founder, with us today. So welcome, Mike.
Yes.
Thank you.
This is Michelle. Mike was having some problems with his computer. I apologize.
Mike, you're welcome to, speak and please go ahead.
Well, thank you, Mayor and Council. We had a great meeting, Adam, Councilman Shimoni and myself, and I gave him the complete tour of the campus. And I think that pictures represents 1,000 words, huh, Councilman Shimoni? We currently have over 200 people in our program. We have a real demand. We're getting a lot of inquiries for the indigenous communities up in northern Arizona. And we have a indigenous program currently in our Tucson program. Matter of fact, I think we brought a client in from San Carlos yesterday, Indian reservation. And so I know that we had discussed or had some concerns about some legal issues that we've been dealing with that were public, that we'd be very happy to have our council explain. We tried to talk with your city attorney about it, because we had a very long conversation with Councilman Shimoni, and he may be able to fill you in, but it was an absolute unfortunate situation that we got involved with a very bad financing company that financed our in Tucson, and nobody's lost any money. As a matter of fact, everybody's being paid all of their money, and we've now had to go through this horrible lawsuit that we finally have come to a settlement and are waiting for the final documents to be prepared to sign off on it. But it hasn't affected any of our licenses. It hasn't affected any of our contracts with our insurance carriers. We are about a 90, we probably are about a 92 to 95% access operated facility. And I think Councilman Shimoni could see the level of treatment we give these people. You know, I've been, as I've said, I think before, I've been a real estate developer in Arizona for 40 years now. And one of the things that we have realized is that the people that are having to reach out for state-funded Medicaid do not get a fair treatment like the people that pay, you know, 30, 40, 50,000 a month to go to some of these high-profile treatment centers. And what we've done is we've created a program, full continuum of care program, and a opportunity for these people to get every bit the same level of care as somebody that's family's paying 30 or 40, $50,000 for a 30-day stay. Just to give you a little background on, we've got over 205 patients in the program currently right now. I would say that 99.9% of everybody we have, because it's Medicaid, are from the state of Arizona. So they have their benefit of a full detoxification program. They get the benefit of a full residential program, and they get the benefit of a full intensive outpatient program with boarding with the facility. We currently have 85 people in our program. And one of the things I think we've done that's been incredibly exciting is we've noticed now most people have the tendency to go to a medical detox and leave the program. And that's why you have such a high relapse or recidivism rate in this industry. And what we have found is that the quality of care that we give them at the beginning is we're finding people are making the election to go into the remaining portion of the program, which follows by a 30 to 45-day residential stay. And then the average stay in our outpatient program is between 73 and 90 days. So what we have found, if you keep people in the program that long, we break the habit. It takes 90 days to break the habit. And we have some really, really successful, and as Councilman Shimoni could see, the excitement at the campus. It was sort of like being in a college campus, wasn't it, Councilman?
Yes, it was. It was a party. It was a good time.
Yeah. And they like it there, you know, and they get fed well. And so therefore, they get good exercise, they get fed well, they're taken care of medically, they're taken care of mentally. We have a great equine program. We've got our horticultural program. We just created a program where I just bought 2 weeks ago, a 1974 Volkswagen fully restored van that we're creating a flower van. And we're going to start going around to the art fairs and the different arts and crafts fairs and having our clients take their horticultural skills and sell flowers and grow flowers. And it's all really interesting. I would encourage any of you that would love to come and take the tour that Councilman Shimoni took. I would encourage you to come. You're very welcome. We'll give you the same tour. And but back to the development agreement issue, we still are pondering. We're not sure really what that accomplishes in the fact that we want to be there. We're going to be there. We know there's a major need in your community there. But I don't know what the development agreement will do if we can't get financing or we're restricted to that's the only use we could have. It makes it very difficult for me to finance this campus, which is over $20 million to build. I also think that if we, for some reason, unfortunately, something happened, and as I've said in the past, Medicaid couldn't cut their rates or some economic condition caused us not to be able to do it, or the real estate market crashed and the interest rates went to 20%. I've seen it all in my life. And we couldn't do it, and we had to change the purpose. We couldn't just change the purpose of what we're building there. We'd have to come back to council and get a brand new site plan approval. So you would definitely have the opportunity to say yay or nay to the next approved site plan that would come to the table. But at this stage of the game, I mean, I think after Councilman Shimoni's seen what we're doing down there, we're all go. I mean, we want to be in your community. We want to bring jobs. We want to bring opportunity to make people healthy, take homeless people off the street and turn their lives around. I mean, that's what we do, and it's something else. So I would just encourage you that I don't, again, know with this development agreement, how we even structure the thing, because we're going to follow all the property zoning ordinances and the property rights and everything that we would do. The issue coming into your community is to allow us to tie to your sewer and your water, and not have to do our own sewer and water and stay in the county, which is not anything we really want to do. But I would just encourage you that we're great people, we're good people. I'm happy to have you talk to everybody. We're not anywhere near what people may have posted on that horrible letter you got from some guy in the community, that we're not money launderers. We don't have a criminal background. This case we're dealing with is strictly a civil case. So, and it's been resolved. It's been a battle. We've spent over $2 million in legal fees, and we are going after our current financing source, who put us in this situation. We shouldn't even be there. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but we would encourage it that we don't wait any longer. Let's get going while the economy's still good.
Thank you, Mike. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor and Council, I just wanted to clarify one point Mr. Ziprich made. He indicated that the Rehab Center had reached out to my office, the City Attorney's office, about the litigation. But our office does not, it's not involved, the city's not involved in that litigation. As a result, our office doesn't look into the merits of that litigation or any details about that litigation. So obviously, we invited the Rehab Center to speak to the council here at this meeting and explain anything it wanted to about that litigation. We appreciate Mr. Ziprich availing himself of that opportunity. So thank you. Just wanted to clarify that for the council and the public.
Thank you, City Attorney. Councilmember McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for the record, I have not talked to the developer. Not that there's anything wrong with that, and I might talk to him in the future, but I have not talked to him at this point. The other thing I'd like to say is I would like to see this approved tonight. I based that on the presentation we had before and studying what was in the packet, so I am supportive. However, at the last time we talked about this, there were a majority of council members that said they were not willing to support it until we got a development agreement. So now we're in sort of a catch-22 situation here. The way I see it, if the motion on the table is approved, we won't be able to approve this tonight. It'll have to wait until May 17th. On the other hand, if we withdraw that motion and someone makes another motion to read ordinance 2022-01 tonight, and there were certain council members that wanted a development agreement before they're willing to approve it, we'd have a situation where the motion would fail, and therefore the project would be killed. And I don't think that's appropriate. So what I would like to do is withdraw my second. Hopefully the motion would be withdrawn. And then I would make a motion to, City Attorney, I'm interested in your thoughts on this, but let me finish what my proposal is. I'm not moving now, we're just discussing. I would make a motion that we consider 2022-01 tonight. That would not be a motion to read. It would just be a motion to say, hey, do we even want to do this tonight? So can you see the situation that we're in? It's a very unusual situation. So City Attorney, how can we wiggle our way out of this?
It is, and I can clarify, it's actually rather simple. The motion that's on the table and the second, if you haven't withdrawn it yet, is to continue to pursue a development agreement until May 17th. If the council votes no on this motion, the council direction before, from February 1st, was to pursue a development agreement. I would recommend a separate motion to no longer pursue a development agreement, a vote on that, and then consideration of the ordinance.
That makes sense. Good. That's why we pay you the bigger bucks, right? All right, so I would like to withdraw my second from the motion that's on the table.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy.
Mr. Mayor, you can call for another second or withdraw your motion.
I have additional questions. So I would like to know, did Mike and the rehab campuses?
But if I could, sorry, we would need another second to engage in additional discussion before additional questions can be asked. So you would need to call for a second before.
Okay. Do I have a second on this motion?
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor. My question is, have they reached out to our planning department to discuss this and explain that they don't want to pursue a DA? I'm just a little concerned that, this was the directive 11 weeks ago, and if our staff hasn't really heard anything from these individuals, anyways, I'll let you speak to that front. If what has been the communication with staff on this issue?
I have just given them the application, kind of walked through the process. They have some examples as well from past development agreements that have been approved by council, and then kind of gave a deadline for when we would need it in order to make the date tonight, and then was told that they would needed more time. And so that's where the continuance to May 17th comes from. So that's about the extent of my communications with them with respect to the development agreement. So I haven't really had a definitive yes or no, just that I haven't received one and that they needed more time.
So there was a request for a continuance as opposed to a request saying we're not going to do a DA?
Correct.
At this point?
Yes.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I appreciate it because, we did give us direction 11 weeks ago. And I'm really excited for the opportunity and possibility to have rehab campuses here to provide the services that we desperately need in our community. But to me, that it's a little, I guess a little bit of a yellow flag here that after 11 weeks after a direction by council that we have not had the level of communication regarding this issue, specifically with the DA, that I would have expected from a community partner. So I'll just let you know that is my concern. And with another 4 weeks, roughly, until May 17th, I think that's proper time to be able to hash this out, discuss it more, be able to make sure that we have the communication needed to, respect what council had said previously and voted on with the majority, that I'm a little trepidatious about. So that's kind of where I stand here, and definitely available to discuss and would like to discuss further. But at this stage, I would like us to continue, provide a continuance and, pick up this discussion here in a month and get a little bit more information on why a DA was not pursued like we had directed previously a full 11 weeks ago. Councilman McCarthy?
So if this motion fails, we could, someone might make a motion to read the ordinance, but if people want the DA and they vote no on it, this project would be dead.
If I could clarify, one of those simple steps that I mentioned, if this motion fails, because the direction from a majority of council on February 1st was to continue seeking a DA, even though you say you don't want a continuance, I believe a motion not to pursue a DA would need to be made so that that is very clear on the record for everyone to understand before any kind of consideration or motion to approve the ordinance is made.
Thank you. Councilmember Shimoni?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilman McCarthy, for walking us through that. You know, if this motion did fail that the mayor has brought forward, I would very likely make a motion to test the waters in regards to not pursue a DA. And I'd be curious how that would play out. And Mayor, if there is a majority at that point to pursue a DA, then I definitely think the extension is necessary. But I'm curious to test the water with the majority tonight and see if there's a majority that would be okay pursuing this tonight without a DA. So again, if your motion were to fail, I'll likely ask that question and then we'll have clarity. And then we can hopefully then circle back to the motion that's on the table now, and that will likely pass with the DA component. But personally, like I've shared, I feel comfortable without a DA. I know I was driving that last time for a DA, and I apologize for the confusion to the community and to council, but I think the information we had 11 weeks ago, or whatever that was very concerning. And now that I've learned more and gotten more clarity, I feel very comfortable with American rehab campuses in Flagstaff, and I can't wait. I think it's so important for alternate care, and I know we all understand the values and want to do what's best for the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. And I'll just say I'm really excited about this possibility, but I have not been provided that information that would change my mind from when we last spoke. I am not sure what's going on here, in terms of what's been communicated to staff, what's been communicated to you. And therefore, without the evidence apparent to me today, I would rather have a continuance so that way I can learn more about what's going on, what was the issue that we faced earlier, 11 weeks ago, to provide the evidence that can convince me otherwise. Otherwise, all I'm asking here is some time to be able to do a little more homework if this is the direction we're going. I'm not saying I'm against it or for it, the DA. What I would like is an extra month's time to be able to understand what evidence and information has been provided to counteract what we had decided before. And I respect the fact that you have gone down there, you've spoken to these individuals at length, but again, I want to see the evidence and information more thoroughly before I can change my mind from the vote I had before, and all I'm asking is for more time to be able to do that. So that's why I put the motion for a continuance.
If I could respond really quickly, I can appreciate that need for more time, and I want you to take the time you need to really understand, the situation and feel confident. So I'm okay with that. Mike, I'm curious your thoughts if 3 weeks is really going to impact your efforts negatively or or if that's something that is fine and that maybe you and Mayor can sit down or however you want to go about this, Mayor. But my only comment is that if we're telling staff to pursue a DA tonight and come back to us with a DA in 3 weeks, I guess I have concerns about that rather than just giving us more time. I'm okay with us taking more time. I'm just concerned asking staff to pursue a DA that ultimately might not be needed. That's my only thought. But Mike, do you have any thoughts about the time?
Or Councilman Shimoni, are you asking me?
Is that okay, Mayor, if I ask?
Yes, if you could, you're welcome to speak. If you could, please do briefly if this is not going, if 4 weeks is going to completely deter the process that you all are pursuing.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Well, let me tell you, we've tried to have discussions with your attorney, with the city attorney, and my general counsel, Franklin Jeans, has been trying to talk to Christina. Is it Christina? At the city attorney's office. And we were saying, tell us what you want the development agreement to look like, because we don't know what to put in the agreement that you were asking for. And so we've been actually rather confused as well. In the meantime, what we've done is we've reached out to Councilman Shimoni, Councilman Regina. We've left messages for the vice mayor and yourself to say, we'd like to be able to better understand what your concerns or objections were about having this development agreement. So I've done a lot of development agreements in my life, and I've done over 50 real estate projects. But at this point, I think it was more about what is this agreement supposed to look like? I mean, development agreements usually come with things where the city is willing to do certain things, the developer's willing to do certain things. It comes with, water and sewer and development restrictions and various different things. And so we've been sort of reaching out, and Franklin Jeans, our general counsel for the America's Rehab Campus, we haven't really got any direction. I apologize that it's taken 11 weeks, but we, in all candor, also, I sort of feel like you do. I feel like we've been in the dark as well. But the fortunate part was we were able to get a meeting with Councilman Shimoni to get him to show him the campus and talk to some of the council people about really what's been going on with this civil matter that we've got a settlement basically completed. So I'm very happy to take another 30 days and get with everybody on an individual basis. I'm happy to come to Flagstaff and meet with people. Whatever we have to do, get our legal counsel on the phone with the city attorney's office. We also would love some direction. So, so I greatly would appreciate whatever we have to do would be very insightful for us as well. So we're just sort of burning daylight. I am continuing to process the stuff, but I do have a hold on the substantial $17,000 submission fee to submit our site plan that's ready to be submitted. So we want to move this along as quickly as possible.
Thank you, Mike. City Attorney.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, Mr. Zipprich has referenced attempted conversations. There have been conversations between their legal counsel and Christina Rubalcava, Senior Assistant City Attorney, and I would ask that you go ahead and ask her about those conversations. She has put a C in the comment and would love to comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rubalcava.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm Christina Rubalcava, Senior Assistant City Attorney. I have to say, I'm a little perplexed by Mr. Zipprich's comments. I will tell you from my perspective, after the council meeting in February, Franklin Jeans, their attorney, did reach out to me. I sent him on February 16th several drafts of sample agreements that we've used in other matters. I told him the next step was to go ahead and file that application and submit a draft agreement. He responded to me February 22nd and said, thank you, buried last week with the SEC settlement, but we'll look at the drafts and respond this week. He never did. Genevieve reached out to them on March 15th. They said they would need more time, and we have not heard a word or seen a draft until I received an email yesterday from Mr. Jeans asking to speak to council in executive session to give an update on the SEC matter. I told him, of course, we could not have anyone who did not work for the city or represent the council in executive session, and that's where it's been. So I provided the drafts. I've talked to Mr. Jeans, and there has been no response. You know, I'm happy to work with Mr. Jeans and to work with whoever else from ARC to go ahead and get that development agreement underway if that's what they'd like to do. But that's where we are.
Thank you, Ms. Rubalcava. I appreciate the info. Councilmember Shimoni.
So really quick, Mayor, so if we approve your current motion, we're going to be asking staff to work with Mike and their team in creating a DA, correct?
Not necessarily. City Attorney.
If I could clarify, back on February 1st, you asked my staff, city staff, to work with ARC to create a DA. You would just be providing a little more time to stay with that direction.
Okay, thank you. So again, it would be to continue with the DA. And so I guess if this, again, council, if this motion fails, I'd like to test the waters on the DA before we extend it, just because I'm fine extending the time. I just feel like we don't need to be pursuing a DA, and I know that some of us maybe are there and some aren't, and that's fine, you know, but I just hate to see us put effort into something that we're not actually going to adopt in the end. And I'm not sure where the majority is at on that topic, but I just don't want to see us go down this path of a DA if we don't need to. But yeah, I totally support us taking more time.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. Councilmember McCarthy, were you wanting to jump in?
Adam, Mr. Shimoni clarified what I was going to bring up.
Okay, thank you. Well, with that, if there's not any further questions or comments, let's pursue the motion that's already on the table, and then we can see where we go from there. So with that,
Mayor?
Yes, Councilmember Aslan.
Speaking from the ether here. I agree with you. I think we need to take a little bit more time. Let's see if this DA process will play out correctly, and we can have the discussion in May.
This is Michelle. So, from ARC, I guess I just to have some clarification because we've gone back and forth quite a bit here. If we continue this, is it for a pursuit of a DA or for ARC to be able to sit with individuals or the council and go through what has occurred with this the lawsuit,
Frankly,
and explain that a little more?
Well, since I have the mic here, I'll just state very briefly. I'm willing to offer the developer a little bit more time to get their act together and figure out what's going on, and that's where my olive branch is right now. If they can pull something together in the next month or so, great. If this is going to continue to be something that feels a bit chaotic, to be frank with you, then we've got one more step to sort of figure this out, and otherwise I probably won't be supportive of it moving forward. Well, that's just where I'm at.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Michelle, you're welcome to speak briefly, but to clarify your question, I'll be kicking it to Sterling. Here.
Okay. I was just looking, a clarity, because I believe, the intention, we had reached out to several of the council members to speak directly one-on-one to kind of break down what was going on, as we did with Councilman Shimoni. And we didn't get that opportunity, and that was part of the reason that we had asked for the continuance, because we were hoping not to pursue the DA further. My understanding, and Mike can correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm incorrect, is that we had explained that piece, that we were trying to speak individually to different council members to explain what was going on and talk in a private nature, because we weren't able to talk in a council meeting at that time, and still at this time, because we are closing, settling the piece. So I think that piece had been a bit misunderstood as to what part of the continuance was about, is so that we could explain and go into a little more detail in order to potentially avoid the DA. So I'd just like to clarify that a little. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney.
And if I may, before, I know Dan Folk, Community Development Director, is standing and prepared to speak. The last direction from the City Council on February 1st was to pursue a development agreement with ARC. The question tonight before you is whether to continue pursuing a development agreement another 4 weeks, March 17th, 2022. Unless council changes direction on that, that's the direction the staff continues to go. I just want to make sure that's clear. It was not to ask for an explanation about any litigation in which ARC is involved. It was not to ask for any details about their development. It was only to pursue a development agreement. That's all I have for the council. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Folk?
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Dan Folk, Community Development Director. I see everybody's struggling here, so I'm going to try to provide some information that might help the situation. So as has been stated, typically a development agreement, it's a contract between the city and a property owner. And the typical things in a development agreement are the city is saying, yes, this is what we're agreeing to. We're going to rezone your property. You're going to get these development rights. You can build X number of dwelling units, X square feet of commercial square footage, whatever. So on one side, the city's saying, this is what we're gonna do on our side. And on the other side, they're saying, in our agreement is we're gonna provide this, support these development rights. Typically it's sewer upgrades, or a new road, or a turn lane, or paying for some services based on the impact of the project, right? And so I think this situation's a little different. The discussion was, we need guardrails to guarantee that what we're approving is gonna get built. In community development staff's mind, the guardrails are the zoning code, the zoning, the development standards that we implement through site planning. Those are the guardrails. It's going to be built to the standards that this community have adopted, right? All the development standards and the uses allowed in the highway commercial zone. We believe highway commercial is appropriate on a United States highway, Highway 89. This is zoning, appropriate zoning. Those are the guardrails. And so I think we're struggling to understand, what do you want in the development agreement? And that's, I think, what the applicant is saying. You're telling them to go back and give us a DA, but they don't understand what you want, what the city council wants in a development agreement. And so if you can't identify what you want in the development agreement, I'm not sure it's fair to ask the applicant to go back and try again.
Thank you, Dan. I appreciate the clarification. Inevitably, it's a matter of what they are planning to build gets built. We are going to get a detox facility there. From my understanding from our last discussion, that's what we're talking about, rather than annexing land that then could be flipped or done with other purposes, that it would follow through that we're annexing a piece of land for a specific purpose and that purpose be fulfilled. So to my understanding, that's where we were really headed with the DA. And Sterling, please correct me from reviewing the prior discussions.
Actually, just wanted to note, Ms. Rubalcava wanted to speak again. I think she will address that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Ms. Rubalcava.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. Yeah, thanks, Dan, for your comments. Appreciate them. From my perspective, it was really clear what Council wanted in the development agreement, and it was to condition this development to the project that had been proposed. And so that if a different project in the future was going to be proposed, that would go back to Council for review. So if that's the way Council still wants to proceed, that's what we'll be looking for in the draft development agreement.
Thank you. And I'll just note too that, we understand that things change, and that's why we amend development agreements, regularly. We're in discussions for a fourth development amendment for another area of town right now. And that it doesn't mean that that's off the table. It's just a matter of we're annexing land, and we would really do share that vision for a detox facility at that location. We just want to make sure that we are being good stewards and annexing land that does go to that specific purpose. So just, I mean, other council members can speak to it, but that was my understanding and making sure that we're getting what we're annexing it for. So, any members of council, if you'd like to speak up now, or we can vote on this motion on the table and then move forward with potentially other motions if that fails. Councilmember Schmody.
I have one last question for Sterling. So Sterling, if this motion failed to postpone, and then I brought forward a motion regarding the DA, regardless of how that played out, yay or nay for the DA, and then we brought forward another motion to postpone as the same as that is on the table now, there's no harm in that, right?
If you, for clarification, if this motion fails, what we would need is a motion not to pursue a development agreement. And that's a standalone motion all by itself that would reverse your action from February 1st. If that motion succeeds, then you can consider the annexation and the rezone that are on the agenda tonight. You wouldn't need another motion to postpone for more time or anything like that.
But out of respect for those on council who are asking for more time, if there was a motion to postpone after we agree not to pursue a DA, is that fine?
You can always postpone. You can always make a motion to postpone the item until a date certain, or even, I would recommend a date certain if you're going to do that. Not a motion to table, because under your rules of procedure, that has to come back in 1 week.
Thank you. And Mayor, again, I'm just looking for clarity in terms of majority in regards to the DA, because I think that's really important. And I think that has changed, at least for me, since that first meeting. So again, I'm going to be voting no on your motion just because I want to see us address the DA first. And then we can talk about postponing. So I don't know if folks want to withdraw the motion at all, or if we want to actually vote it out and see. But I think identifying where we're at with the DA comes first. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the motion's on the table now. I'd like to get a vote, and then we can move forward accordingly. Sterling?
The only final piece I will mention is that you are a council of 6. It will require 4 to succeed the motion to pass.
Thank you. Well, with that, any further discussion? Current motion on the...
Can you remind me what the motion is?
Yep, that's what I was about to do. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
The motion on the table is for City Council to approve a request for a continuance until May 17th, 2022. The DA has already been decided, but this, we can reverse that, but this is specifically, the motion is City Council approves a request for a continuance until May 17th. With that, any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
That's a 3-3, tie and die, all right? All right, well, with that, happy to entertain other motions.
Mayor, I move that we do not pursue a DA.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
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 Well, we're at a standstill, aren't we here? Councilmember Schmody.
So given that we want to pursue a DA, then I think we definitely need more time. And so I'm happy to make a motion to I guess, postpone as your original motion until May 17th.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Again, that motion carries unanimously. All right. With that, this might be a good time for a little break. I can see what's going on with the fire because I'm beginning some calls. So, yeah, let's just let's do 13 minutes. So at 4:50 p.m., 4:50, we will be restarting. All right. Let's see where we are at this point. I think we are on agenda item 12D, which is kind of a continuance of our last discussion, but this is consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, amending the Flagstaff zoning map to rezone approximately 1.09 acres of real property generally located at 7000 North Highway 89, a portion of APN 301-50-005G from the highway commercial zone with a resource protection overlay to the rural residential with a resource protection overlay with conditions providing for severability authority for clerical corrections and establishing an effective date. Staff recommended action is the City Council approve a request for a continuance until May 17th, 2022. Anything on this, Ms. Pear-3, before I throw out a motion here?
Nope, nothing to add.
All right, thank you. I move to approve a request for a continuance until May 17th, 2022.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries unanimously. Down to agenda item 12E, consideration and approval of contract amendment. First amendment to the service provider contract for community health and human services with United Way of Northern Arizona in the total amount of $784,000. Staff recommend action is to approve the first amendment to the service provider contract with United Way of Northern Arizona for administration of $700,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act Coronavirus Local Recovery federal and non-federal funds with a 12% administrative fee for a payment in the amount of $84,000 for a total distribution to United Way of Northern Arizona of $784,000.
Well, I've made you have to read lots today, so it's good. Stacy Brecklenegg, City of Flagstaff Grants and Contracts Manager. So this is exciting. We're starting to get our allocations out the door. So for the American Rescue Plan Act, local recovery funds, and this one is an amendment to United Way. And a quick introduction. In fact, you guys want to come on down and we'll get you closer. But Carol Dykes was CEO with United Way, was here. She had to leave for a tour, and then Mike Kelly is our chair, and Armando Reese is the vice chair for United Way. And then I'd like to introduce Morgan Mullaney. She's the grants and the ARPA funds. So with that, we'll go ahead and go down and talk a little bit about the consideration approval of the contract amendment, the allocations for distribution that the council approved to go to United Way through an amendment through their existing contract is $300,000 aid to nonprofits, $150 aid to nonprofits other, $250 education assistance early learning, and then a 15%, I think it's about 15% admin fee for a total of $784. So keep in mind the 300, the 150, the 250 will be distributed through a community investment competitive, open and fair competitive process. They're working with us after this amendment gets signed to work on a notice of funding announcement where they'll send that out to the community for nonprofits to submit an application and then be reviewed by evaluation committee. And I'm sure Mike will share a little bit and Armando on that process further. So with that, I am going to go ahead and turn it over to Mike Kelly.
Thanks, Stacy. Seems like I'm always following you, right? So you were the past chairman, and yeah, I'm always following her, it seems like. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My name is Mike Kelly. To be clear, I'm a Flagstaff citizen. Have been, Memorial Day, it'll be 40 years. So almost forever, not quite. As I like to call it, my day job, I work for W. Gore and Associates. And in July, I'll celebrate my 40-year milestone there, which is really hard to say out loud. Kind of hard to believe. But as I've said, if you have to work, it's a great place to work. And I still believe that to this day. And I also am very honored, as Stacy said, to be the current chairman of the board of United Way of Northern Arizona. And I'm humbled to say that. You may hear my voice shaking a little bit because it means a lot. I've been involved with United Way for several years, a dozen or more at least, in different aspects of volunteering with community investment teams and on the board, and now the chairperson, vice chair prior to, following Stacy. And it's an amazing organization. And so simply put, we're here today, I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for caring about our community. Thank you for caring about the city of Flagstaff, and for trusting us, the United Way, with these funds. I want to believe that there aren't people in need in my community. I want to believe that. It isn't true. It just isn't true. And so the United Way, I think, does a wonderful job at helping those people that need. And that's, I just can't say enough about that. So again, thank you for trusting the United Way. And we are humbled, we're proud, and we're capable. And I think that's important to understand. And so I think with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Armando, and he'll talk a little bit about the process and how serious we do take the funds and the distribution of those funds. So thank you very much.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Armando Reese, Coconino County Assessor, and longtime volunteer for United Way of Northern Arizona. As was stated, I currently serve as the Vice Chair of the Board and also the Chair of Community Investment for the Flagstaff region. So I'm excited to share with you some of the details about the community investment process. We're very excited for this opportunity, and again, thankful for the city for entrusting United Way as partners in this process. United Way of Northern Arizona, in partnership with our consultant, Kim Joyce and Associates, will implement a comprehensive grant management process utilizing our existing EC Impact grant management system to meet the requirements set forth by the city and, of course, the ARPA requirements. United Way of Northern Arizona is not new to this process. We've been evaluating programs for community investment funding since 1967. With United Way's deep roots within the community, we're in a unique position to be aware of our community's needs, which ensures that donor dollars are going to the greatest needs in the community. At the heart of United Way of Northern Arizona is the Community Investment Team, otherwise known as the CI Team. The CI Team is comprised of community volunteers that are charged with investing donations we receive into proven programs, partnerships, and initiatives that are creating lasting changes in community conditions. Currently, our CI team reviews and evaluates and reports on more than 50 local area programs from organizations that have received community investment funding, from undesignated funds pulled together from multiple individual donors. These are funds such as donations received through the United Way workplace campaigns, which I'm sure you all are very familiar with. Through the CI reporting process, we see the impacts that these programs are making and how the outcomes align with our collective missions. What it does is it ensures that the donor expectations are met and that the donor funds have been wisely invested. And I believe staff have provided more information regarding the CI process in your packets if you'd like to learn more about the United Way's community investment process. Next slide, please. Perfect. So going forward, there will be a grant application process that will begin with a city announcement and a notice of funds available from the city. United Way of Northern Arizona will recruit for community volunteers to be part of the application evaluation process, and we'd love to see members of the Flagstaff community, United Way board members, and also members of the city be a part of this process, including yourself if you'd be interested. Applicants will be reviewed through a comprehensive evaluation process that will be the basis for the funding recommendations. So again, by allowing United Way of Northern Arizona to manage these funds, we can ensure that together we're making the biggest and best impact possible for those who live in our local community. We know that you can know that with confidence that United Way of Northern Arizona and its group of dedicated volunteers are stepping up to make a difference in our communities that we live, we work, and our families call home. Together we can live united. Thank you.
Thank you, Armando.
All right, thank you. I do want to introduce Heidi Hansen Sobek. Are you on the line with United Way? She's the Chief Financial Officer, and I neglected to introduce her, and I don't know if she's on the line. You want to open your camera, you can just say hi real quick, if you're still on. 1, 2, 3. Nope, okay, sounds good. But United Way staff is mighty. There's a small team, but of course with the board and all the volunteers they have, they do a great job. So with that, that ends our presentation on that item.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. With that, I would like to move to approve the First Amendment to the service provider contract with United Way of Northern Arizona for administration of $700,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act, coronavirus local recovery, federal and non-federal funds with a 12% administrative fee for a payment in the amount of $84,000 for a total distribution to United Way of Northern Arizona of $784,000, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
I'll second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Sweet. Councilmember Shimoni.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to thank Mike and the team and for all that you do in our community. It's extremely important to us, and it's been such an honor to be able to receive ARPA funding and do what we're doing with these funds with your support. So just a real opportunity and a very humbling experience that we have the privilege to have. And I heard you, Mike, talk about your appreciation for working at Gore and saying how that's a great place to work, and I'll say that the city is a great place to work as well, and you're still young, so feel free to follow Stacy over this way, and and we really appreciate all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shimoni. With that, we have a motion on the table. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Excellent. That brings us down to agenda item 12F. Man, this is a long agenda this time around, isn't it? Well, like 1,600 pages, something like that. Anyways. Consideration and approval of contract, the First Amendment to the service provider contract for arts, science, and cultural services with Flagstaff Arts Council, DBA, Creative Flagstaff, and the total amount of $172,500. Staff recommended action is to approve the First Amendment to the service provider contract with Flagstaff Arts Council, DBA, Creative Flagstaff, for administration of $150,000 of the American Rescue Plan Act coronavirus local recovery, federal and non-federal funds with a 15% administrative fee for a payment of $22,500 for a total distribution to Creative Flagstaff of $172,500, and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Stacy
Good
BK.
evening, Mayor and Council. Stacy Breckland-Eggs, City of Flagstaff Grants and Contracts Manager, here to talk about the American Rescue Plan Act, local recovery funds. I'm here also with Morgan Mullaney, that is a grants contract specialist that oversees the ARPA funds. David McIntyre, that Creative Flagstaff is part of his section, along with Jonathan Stone. Thank you, Jonathan, with Creative Flagstaff. So with that, I'll move to the next slide. So this is for consideration and approval of contract amendment for allocation and distribution of $150,000, aid to nonprofits for arts and science, and then $22,500 for administrative fee for a total of $172,500. And then with that, Jonathan, I'll turn it over to you. Can you see the slide okay?
Yes, I can. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
Yep.
hear you great. Thank you.
Great. I guess technology is a wonderful thing. I apologize if I'm joining on my phone because I couldn't figure out how to get the computer app to work. But again, Mayor and Council, thank you so much for the opportunity. And I echo much of what United Way just said in terms with their responsibilities in the community for a different sector. But just to appreciate the continued investment in arts, culture, and science in our community. And so we, with these funds, are going to be working with the city to determine a set of criteria, and that process, I understand, will commence once the funding is approved. But we do have existing grant programs, as we discussed recently at our last presentation to council, that and processes in place that closely mirrors the needs of this program. And so I'm confident that we can deliver these funds to the projects that ultimately satisfy the criteria that ARPA has, as well as the city has. And just as a reminder, arts and culture in our community, and arts, culture, and science in our community in terms of public experiences is a $90 million economic impact, as studied by the the AEP study. We will be starting that study again here soon. Arts and culture has been hit tremendously hard by the pandemic, and it's going to take a long time, not necessarily just funds recovery, but audience recovery. And some of our organizations are having to learn how to deal with change in consumer behavior because the pandemic has taught us new things that we can do to satisfy our time. And these funds will allow us to consider projects that are focused on collaboration and recovery and ultimately fostering resiliency. And as you guys know from our strategic plan, we are tremendously focused on this idea of resiliency of the sector, but also how this idea that the sector can promote resiliency within our community. Next slide, please. So just as a reminder, we have a 20+ year partnership with the city. We haven't been around nearly as long as the United Way, but we do value our extremely long partnership. And we do serve on your behalf as the city's arts, culture, and science agency, which means that we, through our contract, also we offer grant making services, but also leadership in those spaces, arts, culture, and science. We also operate the Coconino Center for the Arts. So the Art and Science Fund, which we regularly administer, includes the general operating support grants, which that cycle is currently in review, and capacity and innovation grants, which are essentially our project grants. And as mentioned previously, we, since June of 2021, primarily with the support of council through other means, have been able to give out 44 grants to with 91 awards totaling just about $740,000. And so we're in the middle of our general operating support process right now, and I hope that we can commence the ARPA process shortly thereafter, potentially in concurrent review process with our project cycle in the fall, or whatever ultimately city leadership determines is best for this sector. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jonathan.
All right, if we don't have any questions, I do have one item that I'd like David McIntyre to clarify. We found some financial things that need to be cleaned up a little bit on the staff summary, and he can explain some of those, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, Stacy. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, Dave McIntyre, Community Investment Director for the City of Flagstaff. And there are a couple clarifications from the amendment and the staff summary that actually helped us identify an error in the purchase order for the base contract, which is where the information was pulled from. And when we realized it wasn't completely accurate, we were able to fix the purchase order. But we do want to make sure that what you have in your staff summary and then what the amendment says is accurate. These clarifications, just to be clear, do not impact the new funds in the amendment considered today at all. They're nothing to do with the new funds. But they do correct the total from the base contract in section 2.1 of the amendment to be actually $453,392.81. This is comprised of $360,000 in grant pass-through funds, $39,392.81 in lead arts, culture, and science agency activities, and then $54,000, which is 15% of the total pass-through for their administration. As mentioned, these are details from the base contract, but we did want to make sure that everything was accurate and that the amendment has the correction. Happy to address any questions related to those.
Thank you. I did have a general question. So with the United Way, we were paying a 12% administrative fee, and with Creative Flagstaff, we're paying a 15% administrative fee. And I was just wondering how that is determined.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry, Mayor. It is correct, 12%. That's what United Way's overhead is currently, and what their indirect cost rate or their overhead plan is. And Creative Flagstaff is 15%, so we're paying what their overhead plan is.
Okay, so this is based on the entities that are involved as opposed to some set metric based on our own end.
Correct. That it's what their overhead rate is currently this fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Just,
Yeah. no,
just
that's-
saw that difference and I was like,
Yeah, that was great,
"Oh,
and
you
I
know,
happened to say
3%
15.
administrative
It was-
fee, it's-
Yeah, so.
does add up.
Yeah. So United Ways is 12% and Creative Flagstaff is 15. And then the only other thing I would like is if we could just do a motion or something to accept the changes that David said so that we can make sure that we're correct on the staff summary for record keeping. And then the amendment will have that revised current amount for the base contract.
Excellent, thank you. Council, any questions? Let me pull up. Let's see here. All right, I'm not seeing anything, so happy to entertain a motion here. Or I will. Councilmember Shimoni.
Mayor, I move that we approve our first amendment to the service provider contract with Flagstaff Arts Council, DBA Creative, Flagstaff for administration of, was it 150 or was it it was the adjusted number?
So the base contract will be 453, 392.81, and the amendment will be for the 172,500.
Sterling, do I need to repeat that, or can I just say?
No, no need to repeat it, you're good.
And that is my motion. And authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents. Thank you.
I second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that brings us to agenda item 12G. This is the consideration and approval of ratifying contract. Ratify and approve the construction contract with Tiffany Construction Company for the Spruce Wash, Cedar Avenue to Dorotha Avenue Channel and Inlet Improvement in the amount of $2,554,520.13. Staff recommended action is to ratify and approve the construction contract with Tiffany Construction Company in the amount of what I just said and allow a contract time of 116 calendar days and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
Good evening,
Ms.
Mayor,
Cameron.
Council, yes, good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I'm Christine Cameron. I'm a project manager with Capital Improvements. And this item is for the award of the construction contract to Tiffany Construction for the Spruce Wash Cedar to Dorotha improvements. The scope includes channel and stabilization improvements from Cedar to Dorotha and a 12x8 concrete box and inlet across Dorotha to increase capacity. Our contractor, Tiffany, has been out working in the neighborhood since mid-March. Leading up to that date, engineering staff worked with procurement, the city attorney's office, and the city manager to expedite the contract under our emergency procurement process to advance that schedule. So staff's recommendation tonight for this action is to ask council to ratify the contract, and if so, we will proceed with construction with a goal to provide all the necessary improvements prior to monsoons this year. So I'll stop there for any questions.
Excellent, thank you. I move to ratify and approve the construction contract with Tiffany Construction Company in the amount of $2,554,520.13 and allow a contract time of 116 calendar days and authorize the city manager to execute the necessary documents.
I'll second.
I will second.
Seconded by, well, I think Vice Mayor beat you to it, Councilmember Heslin. So, seconded by Vice Mayor. Any further discussion, council? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Moving right along
Thank
here,
you.
we are down to agenda item 13A. This is our regular agenda. The consideration and adoption of resolution number 2022-16, a resolution approving the City of Flagstaff's 2022 annual action plan and authorizing its submission to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Staff recommended action is to read resolution number 2022-16 by title only. Ms. Pavlik.
Hi, let me share my screen really quick. All right, did that work?
Yep, we can see it.
Awesome. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Christine Pavlik, Housing and Grants Administrator. I'm here today to talk about the 2022 Annual Action Plan for the city's Community Development Block Grant Program. And I do want to briefly talk about the ARPA recovery funds used for congregate care services as well. And then we'll review the CDBG funding recommendations. And then I'd like to ask you to approve a resolution finalizing the 2022 funding allocations and thus allowing us to submit our annual action plan to HUD. So I just wanted to briefly talk about the ARPA funds that you, Council, have allocated to congregate care services support. In February, you ratified a professional services contract and a grant agreement for emergency funding provided to Flagstaff Shelter Services. On the chart above, you can see $50,000 of those emergency allocations were from city general funds, and the other $100,000 were from the ARPA recovery funds earmarked for that congregate care service support. Staff also approved emergency funding of the ARPA recovery funds for Northland Family Help Center, and we're going to be asking you to ratify that grant agreement at the May 3rd council meeting. We were able to provide these emergency allocations of the ARPA funding because regulations do allow for an exemption to the requirement that competitive procurement is used, but only when there exists a public exigency or emergency. So that leaves us with $224,126.57. And we decided to go ahead and include those funds in the 2022 CDBG notice of funding availability and application process to make sure we were getting those funds out into the community as soon as possible. We received 2 applications. One was from Catholic Charities for needed physical improvements and HVAC COVID mitigation updates at 3 of their shelter. They're kind of like also group home facilities. Those are located in Sunnyside and Southside. We also received an application for operational expenses at the Crown Motel, which is the new non-congregate emergency shelter owned and operated by Flagstaff Shelter Services. And at the May 3rd meeting, we will be requesting your approval of these grant agreements in the amounts listed on the chart in green, utilizing the remainder of those ARPA recovery funds. So the chart in blue on this slide are the funding recommendations for the 2022 CDBG funds. And the chart on the right in green outlines the ARPA congregate care services funding allocations. Because there was only a little over $135,000 left in the ARPA funding category for that Flagstaff Shelter Services request, we're actually recommending that CDBG funds that are left over in our public service category be allocated to Flagstaff Shelter Services as well. It will need to be 2 different contracts, and the funds will come to the shelter at different times because the ARPA funds are able to be accessed quicker than the HUD-approved CDBG funds. So we haven't received our actual allocation yet, and we likely won't until on or around May 15th. So these are the recommendations with the caveat that all funding amounts will be increased or decreased by an equal percentage depending on if our actual allocation is less or more than we've estimated. So these are the final 2022 CDBG allocation recommendations that we discussed at the work session last week. And I am here to answer any questions you guys might have. And we would love to entertain an approval of a resolution allowing us to submit the annual action plan to HUD and finalize these allocations.
Thank you, Ms. Pavlik. Council, questions, comments? So I'm just noticing also the administrative fee now, or with this, is a 20%. Is that the actual cost that we always face with this? I mean, or is this an estimated amount with expectations thereof, or how does this pan out? Because that's a pretty sizable administrative fee on this end.
It's a great question, Mayor. So we have historically always used 20%. That is the cap that's set by HUD for these funds for administration. It includes administration, so the work that I do, but it also includes about 10% in indirect. So it helps to pay for things like legal and grants and contracts. I don't know if Rick wants to talk about that at all. If you have more questions, he might have more information about what that indirect covers.
Thank you. That helps explain it. If part of this is the administrative costs of the city as well, that completely makes sense. So I just wanted to, yeah, make sure that we're, you know, just that I'm aware of where those administrative costs are going, because you see $127,000 price tag, and I'm like, well, let's, yeah, make sure.
Absolutely.
Anyways, I appreciate that info. Council, any additional questions? Happy to entertain motions, all of that.
Mayor, I move that we read resolution number 2022-16 by title only.
I'll second.
Seconded by Councilmember McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you all so much.
We are down to
May-
agenda item 13B.
Mayor.
Oh, read,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
jumping the gun. I'm
Need to read and
sorry,
adopt.
Stacy. Go for it.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving the City of Flagstaff Community Development Block Grant 2022 Annual Action Plan and authorizing its submission to the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development.
I move to adopt 2022-16.
A motion by Councilman McCarthy. I will second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Now we're down to agenda item 13B. This is the consideration and approval of preliminary plat PZ-21-00154-01. MMV Devco LLC requests preliminary plat approval for MMV D3 located at 1800 North Gemini Drive, a single-family subdivision on 6.31 acres in the medium-density residential zone. Staff recommended action the staff recommends the City Council, in accordance with the findings presented in this report and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation of approval, that was a 5-0 vote, approve the preliminary plat. Ms. Antal.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Council. Thank you for your time. Tonight, I'm here to present the request for preliminary plat approval for MMVD3, which is located at 1800 North Gemini Drive. So this is a single-family subdivision with 41 single-family home lots on 6.31 acres in the medium-density residential zone within the Resource Protection Overlay. The interdivision staff, IDS as we so lovingly call it, approved the preliminary plat on February 4th, 2021. Here's the vicinity map. This location is actually right next to Basis. So the Foots Trail sits in between basically Basis School and the subject site. The subject site is almost entirely surrounded by the McMillan Mesa Natural Area. Across the way, is a congregate care facility and a series of medical offices. You can see the other yellow MR zones. Those are also single unit rental housing. So in 2016, the subject property was rezoned from research and development to medium density residential, and the McMillan Mesa Village Specific Plan was amended to support a single family residential subdivision on this site. This is the proposed D3 preliminary plat. I hope that when it comes back for a final plat, it has a prettier name than MMB D3. But D3 is what it is, that's the parcel it is within its parent subdivision. So you can see the 41 lots laid out with an interior open space. There's a connection made to the Foots Trail. This connection is also going to allow this property to adequately sewer. Because of the McMillan Mesa natural area, the sewer for this site was originally planned to go through the city property, but they were no longer able to do that. So the developers had to work with with Basis School to obtain an easement in order to properly sewer the site. It doesn't work sewering the site towards the front because then it would require lift stations, which again would just increase the cost of each one of these homes and require waivers from our engineering standards. So we were able to work with the applicant through this sewer issue. So meets all the requirements of the medium density zone. It meets the minimum acres are units per acre. It meets its open space requirement. They are using the planned residential development option that will allow lots less than 6,000 square feet. We did need to use lots less than 6,000 square feet because MR lots are required to provide 15% of the site as open space. So when you do single-family homes as well as that open space, it can be pretty difficult. The smaller lot sizes, again, allow us to meet that minimum density. And there are some alternative setbacks, so really we're looking for a design of a house that does not have a garage door dominated design, so front porches and the like, and the homes will be closer to the street. So meets all of our other relevant standards. They will be required to get a cultural resource clearance prior to final plat. There's been some material storage on this site, but there's still some other clearance that needs to be done once that material is removed. In terms of parks, open space, and pedestrian bicycle facilities, the site is within close proximity to both Buffalo Park, Ponderosa Park, and city-owned open space. Bicycle and pedestrian facilities not provided, but public access has been maintained to the existing Foots Trail to the west of the subject site. The public systems analysis conducted to confirm the preliminary plat. Everything was deemed to be in compliance with the civil engineering plans. I did mention the one primary issue that we were having with the site. Access and traffic, new TIA was not required. The site was analyzed as part of that rezoning in 2016, which essentially shuffled density up on the mesa. So this this subdivision will not result in a net amount of units that weren't originally anticipated. In terms of engineering standards, they'll need to provide the new looped water line through the subdivision, as well as a sewer line, and each lot, of course, provided with a tap. In terms of stormwater, this development falls within a larger subdivision that uses a regional detention facility, but they're still required to provide their low-impact development on site. And where I showed you that Foots connection coming through the subdivision, it's directly adjacent to where the LID will be provided. And the preliminary, everything with the application was correct, and they meet the minimum required subdivision improvements. Subdivision standards were met in terms of lot design, street design, and block design. Again, we're using a smaller lot size through that planned residential development option. And the required findings are that the city council shall find the preliminary plat meets the requirements of the city code, Title 10, the Flagstaff zoning code, City Code Title 11, General Plans and Subdivisions, and City Code Title 13, Engineering Design Standards and Specifications. And the Planning and Zoning Commission did recommend forwarding this to the City Council with a recommendation for approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to try and answer them.
Thank you. Councilwoman McCarthy.
Tiffany, you mentioned something about the parking garages. How are those going to be set up?
Sure. So in this particular instance, and I don't have it depicted, I don't think, on here. In this particular instance, the houses are moved closer to the street, which is more of a neo-traditional design. They're designed to have those frontage types with front porches. The garages are set back from the facade. One, to accommodate parking in a garage, so you need that garage to be at a minimum of 20 feet back from the front property.
So it can be contiguous. In other words, one building, the garage and the house is all one building.
Yes.
But the garages are set back, which is aesthetically a lot nicer.
Yes.
Thank you.
And we also keep the width of the primary width of the building is the same size as the garage. So the garage is not larger than the principal width of the house.
Excellent. Councilmember Shimoni?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Tiffany. So my question is, are these for sale?
Yes.
Okay, and I think that answers my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, Council? I'll log on here again, make sure Councilmember Aslan hasn't chimed in. And yeah, I'm not saying anything at this time, so happy to entertain a motion. I move to read, okay, hold on. Sorry, I skipped to the next one again. I move in accordance with the findings presented in this report, the Planning and Zoning Commission recommendation of approval to approve the preliminary plat.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman McCarthy. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you, Ms. Antal. Agenda item 13C is the consideration and adoption of resolution number 2022-17, a resolution approving a master participating agreement between the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Forest Service, Coconino National Forest, and the City of Flagstaff for watershed protection. Staff recommended action is to read a resolution number 2022-17 by title only. Do we have
Mayor, I believe that the staff member associated with this staff summary is actually out helping with fires.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
That is in fact the case. Thank you. Thanks.
So with that, I am going to move to read resolution number 2022-17 by title only.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Salas. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. City Clerk.
A resolution of the Flagstaff City Council approving an intergovernmental agreement between the United States Department of Agriculture, United States Forest Service, Coconino National Forest, and the City of Flagstaff for watershed protection.
I move to adopt resolution number 2022-17.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Salas. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Sterling.
I think the next time I submit an item for the agenda, I'm just going to go fight a fire. It seems to sail right through.
That's the way I tried to get out of this meeting, but it didn't work. Yeah. I hope he's doing okay, and the fire's winds are dying down, is what it's looking like. Hopefully we can, yeah. Hold on. Knock on wood. No, not yet. We still got one more. Agenda item 13D is the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-10, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff, Arizona, amending the Flagstaff City Code, Chapter 1 through 14, Personnel System, by amending the Employee Handbook of Regulations relating to alternative work schedules, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date. Staff recommended action is to read ordinance number 2022-10 by title only for the first time.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. This is Jeannie Gallagher, your Contract Human Resource Director for the City of Flagstaff. Brandy Suda, our Acting HR Director, had planned to be here to present this evening. However, she has been on set status due to the tunnel fire, and so I was her backup.
Thanks.
We are here this evening with an ordinance request related to the current alternative work schedule policy in the Employee Handbook of Regulations. I don't have a presentation, however, we'll briefly recap our request. As you know, at the outset of the pandemic, many of the city facilities temporarily closed, and the city sent as many employees as possible home to work. To keep our employees and city safe and to ensure operations were able to continue. Along with most employers, we did this literally on the fly and without much structure. As we moved to partial reopening, some employees have returned to city facilities on a more regular basis. Others continue to telework for a portion of their schedule. The current alternative work schedule policy in the handbook was adopted back in 2010 to assist with staff retention for work-life balance and perhaps some occasional telework outside the office in mind. As we are moving into phase 4 of the reentry plan, our goal is to encourage and support more flexible work scheduling, including telework. However, we've come to realize that our current alternative work schedule policy is not only out of date, but definitely lacks sufficient administrative guidelines for broad application. In addition, as the city continues to adapt to a new hybrid work environment, as well as adapt to the recruitment challenges, the city needs the ability to quickly adapt its policies accordingly. This proposed amendment to the employee handbook continues to reflect our intent to support flexible scheduling, including telework for positions where that is feasible, but would remove the current administrative details with the intent of moving those to a city manager directive. While much of the current alternative work schedule provisions would be maintained, a city manager directive allows for the city to be flexible and nimble to make administrative changes to the directive as we identify items that need to be updated through our learned experiences and as the city determines what new hybrid work environment is going to work best for our community and our employees. I, as well as City Manager Clifton, our co-submitter, are available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Thank you, and thank you, Jeannie, for stepping in. I just want to add to what Jeannie said to give a little more context to this. This discussion has been active for some time, and I think we at the staff level are being very careful and very thorough in looking at this, and I want to emphasize the collaboration that is currently going on. This particular policy revision that we're looking at is before the leadership team, which comprises every division head in the city, as well as our sustainability director, city clerk, public affairs director, and housing director. So our leadership team is, I think, I know, is very representative of the entire organization. A lot of thought going into this. We're excited at what the outcomes are beginning to look like, but we're not there yet. But when we do have some sense of finality and emphasis on being a little bit nimble on this to begin with, we may have to revisit it over time, but we will be reporting back to council with these outcomes once they are more vetted, more thoroughly vetted, and that vetting will occur internal to the entire organization with our extended leadership, ultimately with EAC and others. So it will be a very inclusive process. It already is, and one that I think will be beneficial for the organization. But as Jeannie noted, we are a bit constrained in what we can do right now because the employee handbook regulations did not contemplate the very things that we're talking about now, remote working, virtual working, and that sort of thing. So we think this is in lockstep with what council has been wanting to see once we start to emerge from COVID through the reentry plan. And that is specifically allowing for more remote working opportunities when available. And we think that not only benefits the employees, it's also a green approach, allowing people to drive less and commute less and do things more conveniently in their home environment when they're able to do so and when it lends itself to the continued good function of our organization. So I just wanted to add those comments. Again, thank you to Jeannie for presenting. I will further add that even though Brandy is not with us it's tonight because of other exigent circumstances, that she's been a big part of this presentation as well. And when we get back in front of council, we certainly could have more of the team in front of you explaining these things. So we are here to answer any questions that you may have at this time. And again, you can expect to hear the outcomes of this discussion at some point in the near future.
Thank you, City Manager. Any questions at this time? Or I'm going to throw down a motion. All right. I move to read ordinance.
I had my hand up.
Oh, Councilmember Aslan?
Yeah, I just wanted to weigh in here and say, as someone who is at this very moment taking advantage of the additional flexibility that is available to us to meet remotely, I really welcome this paradigm shift. I think we're seeing the future unfold in real time here. I think the workplace is never going to be the same again. And I think it's appropriate for us to be able to shift into the ability to be two places at once, as it were, and also to just have that flexibility for families and for individuals who are under a certain amount of stress or whatever during the day. If it is effective, if it's an effective approach to get the job done, then why not allow for that flexibility? I really appreciate being able to enjoy it myself and would never begrudge our various city employees from all departments to be able to take advantage of that when it's appropriate. And Jeannie and Greg, if you guys are okay with the language, then so am I. I just wanted to take a moment too, a point of privilege to point out to our city attorney, Sterling, you're in point of fact always putting out fires. So I guess you don't get that excuse. You are our number one guy who's out there in the flames 24/7 and wearing several hats at once. So just appreciate you and wanted to acknowledge that. Anyway, ready for your motion, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Hassan. I move to read ordinance number 2022-10 by title only for the first time.
I'll second that.
Seconded by
I'll second
Councilmember Shimoni. Oh, late to the punch. Councilmember Shimoni has seconded it. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you.
Any opposed? That carries unanimously. City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff amending the Flagstaff City Code, Chapter 1-14, Personnel System by amending the Employee Handbook of Regulations relating to alternative work schedules, providing for penalties, repeal of conflicting ordinances, severability, and establishing an effective date.
All right. Thank you, City Clerk. And as agenda item 13E is being postponed, we are down to agenda item 14, which is our public participation. Do we have anyone on the line? All righty. Then we are down to agenda item 15, informational items to from mayor, council, and staff, and future agenda item requests. And I'll start off over, let's do reverse roll call order this time, since I did it the other way before. Councilmember Shimoni.
I'm just pausing to give myself a time to wrap my thoughts and get my thoughts together before I start rambling here.
I can
Okay,
call on
sure.
someone else and get back with you. Councilmember Salas.
I'll keep it short and sweet. So looking forward to the two-day budget retreat on Thursday and Friday at the Aquaplex. And there will be public participation at the beginning and the end of each day.
I believe at the end, there will always be public participation, but I think we have it structured toward the end of each day. And thank you for raising that, and if I may, just to verify, it's an 8:30 hard start, and we'll get you out fairly early Thursday because we'll be using that same room for the Citizen Bond Committee, so I think you can expect adjournment around 3:30. We will feed you, and we're ready for you. We've been working hard on the presentations, and we've met with the facilitator, so we're looking forward to a good retreat. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy?
Well, thank you, Mayor. I just might mention that I had a meeting this week with Sterling Solomon and some staff people about the idea of how we could have a lower effective taxation rate on primary residences as opposed to rental properties, second homes, et cetera. And, this is kind of a coming issue that I would like to push. It's probably not ripe right now because the legislative, this would take legislative action, and the legislature is not in the part of the session where they're accepting new ideas. So maybe next year it will be ripe. So keep it in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Councilmember Aslan?
Yes, thank you. I will take a moment here briefly just to make a public apology to Councilmember Shimoni. I believe that last week he perceived some gestures over our remote platform that he took offense to. And while I don't believe that I intended any offense to you, Councilmember Shimoni, I do understand the impact that our actions can have. And I just wanted to take a moment to apologize for creating that misperception and that confusion. And I just want you to know personally and publicly that I, of course, would never say anything behind your back that I wouldn't say to your face. And I deeply appreciate what you bring to council, and I deeply appreciate the passion and the energy level that you model for the rest of us. You put in a lot of hours in this job, and it's to be commended. And you should never feel like you're being pressured to shut up or speed up what you have to say and what you think is important to share with the public. So I just wanted to clear the air there for you. And I guess that's a nice little cautionary tale for us as we get more into this remote work. You know, I think you lose something when you banter back and forth in the mode of texting because you don't get that inflection or you can miss some context clues. And I believe that's what happened last week. And it's just a nice reminder that we need to be careful while on camera, and especially when the camera's, 40, 50 feet away and it's hard to tell exactly what's going on. And also there's microphones, and the full context of something that's happening isn't fully available. So just a reminder for all of us, and again, a heartfelt apology, Adam, for the impact of my actions, even though I really don't think I intended any offense to you. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I am looking forward to the budget retreat, especially since I'm getting fed. And I will be attending the Earth Day festivities on Saturday, so I hope you all will join me. And have a great rest of your day, everyone.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Shimoni?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to definitely acknowledge Councilmember Aslan's heartfelt comments. Councilmember Aslan, I so appreciate your words, and this is hard work that we do, and this is a lot that we carry on our shoulders. And obviously, I think we all take this work very seriously, including myself, and to and from can be, our only opportunity to really communicate things. So, and like Councilmember, you said, it's very hard to read body language in this virtual world, and it just makes communication that much harder. So, thank you, Councilmember Aslan, for hearing my concerns and communicating with me and allowing me to be vulnerable with you and express my concern from what I misunderstood through the videos, my interpretation. But I really have a lot of respect for all of us up here, and I really appreciate all the hard work that we do with city staff and leadership. We have a Mountain Line board meeting tomorrow that Vice Mayor and I will be at, and tomorrow is also the deadline to apply to fill the vacant seat. So that's at 5 p.m. tomorrow night. Stacy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it is 5 p.m. We do have our budget retreat, and I am so looking forward to it, and I'm really hoping that there will be time to allow council to really dive into things and not just, be hustled through things. I think that we really need to have the space to discuss, and I've talked to city manager about it, and I just think that our work and our discussions are so important. We represent the population of Flagstaff, and the budget's the most important document and job of our year. And this Thursday and Friday are extremely important. So I'm very looking forward to that meeting. And I do wonder, is the public able to join us in person? If I can just get a thumbs up or a thumbs down, does anyone know?
I'm hesitating because we never would turn anybody away. But that said, we have asked that only leadership members who want to be in person attend. It's simply a matter of spatial constraints. We're meeting in the Aquaplex conference room. So yeah, the quick answer is anybody is invited. But the caveat to that is, you know, it may not be as comfortable as the council chambers, but we'll do what we can.
Okay, I was just curious. Stacy has a comment.
Well, so long as the fire department doesn't show up, then we should be good on the, capacity
Yeah,
size.
thank you for
Yeah.
that.
Stacy?
And sorry, just as a reminder, it is going to be live streamed, so they can always join us through that option as well.
And do we know when that's going to be posted to our agenda page, the presentations and such?
The agenda and the presentation were just posted a couple hours ago, so those are accessible by the public now. And the recording of the video typically will post the day after, give or take, but it's fairly quick.
Very good. And then Earth Day is coming up. Obviously, there's a lot of great things happening there that I'm looking forward to being involved with. And I also have a Flagstaff High School powwow on my calendar for Saturday. I'm not sure the details of that, or if I can't even validate that, but that might be occurring this Saturday. I do see heads nodding, so.
1 o'clock and 7 o'clock on Saturday. Yeah.
Thank you. And then lastly, next Tuesday, the Boys and Girls Club Youth of the Year Award Ceremony is occurring, and I'm looking forward to being a part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, just to recap a few things here. We did meet with Congressman O'Halloran last Friday at the airport, Vice Mayor as well as Councilmember Aslan, to discuss infrastructure and some of our requests of the federal government, particularly around airport-related infrastructure that is needed. We also all attended the Elevate Pre-K, which was really great to see all the work that this entity is doing to help support families that are basically between the 100 to 250% poverty level. So Head Start does lower income individuals below the poverty line. This really helps with our workforce development, help getting their, the kids prepared as well as the parents in a position to be able to better work. So I really like seeing all the work they're doing. And aside from that, we had a really good meeting with the Alliance of the 21st Century, and which brings all the governmental heads here in the city of Flagstaff to the table to discuss a lot of what we're working on, collaborations, and we had a very lively and good discussion there. It's one of my favorite meetings. And I put in a request to, at our next meeting here in a couple months, to discuss sustainability efforts in particular after our budget session and after potentially looking at what bonds we will be putting forth as a council. It would be a high time right thereafter to see where we can collaborate with our partners on sustainability efforts, because obviously it's going to take all of us to see these things through and see where we can collaborate. So aside from that, that's about all I got for tonight. City Manager, you got anything?
A quick clarification of something that was mentioned at the outset of this meeting. These budget retreats are retreats, and they're informational, and we never take formal action. So I think there was a misunderstanding that this retreat would conclude with a final adoption of the budget, and of course that does not occur. That occurs in June. We're a couple of months away yet, so we're still very much in that informational exchange. Although it's going to be a very important retreat, we will certainly try to accommodate the need to have some deep dives into certain matters. The facilitator is ready. That will be Julie Lancaster. And thank you for mentioning the public comment part of that, Councilmember Salas. So yeah, we're looking forward to the retreat. Again, 8:30 start time on Thursday morning. No, 8:30. Yeah. I wanted to make that clarification because last time we did 8 o'clock, and I think it threw some of you for a loop. So we're back to 8:30. Hard start.
Coffee and bagels start at 8 o'clock.
Coffee and bagels before then, if you want to come in early.
Yes,
thank you.
Thank you. Sterling.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I just wanted to make sure my comment previously about the fire, obviously I don't want that to be deemed as insensitive. Obviously, there are very real needs. We have, staff members that are impacted, as we saw tonight, as well as staff out there fighting the fires. So my thoughts and prayers are with all those. I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Sterling. We certainly.
I second that.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, with that, get the bam stick out. Meeting adjourned.